Welcome to another Auto Spec Renew video. Today we are in Florida with Dave and his fantastic Mercedes-Benz. It's a 1980 Mercedes-Benz that you completely changed.
Correct.
All right. Yeah. So not only you changed this car, but this car changed your life, at least your professional life.
True.
Yeah. So tell us everything about it.
So I built this car by myself.
Yeah.
As a side project from my regular work, and I lived in Pennsylvania, which is
quite a bit far. Yeah,
probably about 20 hours from here if you want to drive it. Subsequently, about a year and a half after I built it, I came down to Florida with my family, and we thought we might move here because we were sick of the snowstorms and the cold weather. And when I was building the car, I was also watching the Salvage To Savage YouTube series on the build of their Tesla truck. And at the time, 4 years ago, there weren't that many conversions, so I just sought out any sort of online resource to get more ideas for what I was doing. So when we came down to Florida, I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure that YouTube channel I watch is actually in Florida. So I just called up Mikey and I said, hey, I did a Tesla swap. I'm a fan of your show. Can I visit your shop, say hi? And then when I said that I might be moving here, he said, well, if you did a Tesla swap, I'm looking to hire more people to work here. So,
and the rest is history.
And now 2 years later, here I am. Every day I'm at the shop.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What makes you want to go on a journey of converting a classic into electric?
Right. So my sort of car background was always a conversion, but not electric conversion. Way back when, 2003, I started doing vegetable oil conversions for diesel engines, run on used cooking oil.
Was this ever converted to?
Not this specific car, but I had a previous four-door version of this that was converted. But I did it as a full-time business for a while, and I converted a lot of these, a lot of everything else in America, so TDI Volkswagens, Cummins pickup trucks, Power Strokes, etc. So I was always, it wasn't custom work like this shop, but it was, building fuel systems from scratch.
And a greener alternative.
Yeah, that as well. Yeah. So that sort of, I learned how to do welding because we had to make our own parts, and so I sort of built up kind of a parallel to custom work skill set, having to wire in control units and weld fuel tanks and things like that. So I read probably about 6 years ago about some electric conversions that were happening. Some of like the drag guys who were using DC motors and going 0 to 60, but they went to 0 to 60 in 1.6 seconds, and I was like, whoa, that's super cool. And I sort of looked into it, but at the time it didn't seem financially feasible. Yeah. And then 2 years later, I was kind of kept up with it, and I saw more conversions popping up, and a couple companies starting to provide Tesla drive units with open source control units and everything. So I was like, you know what, this might be cool. And I had this car. I had a bunch of cars. This was not my daily driver.
Okay.
And it sort of just sat because it was a 80, so it's a non-turbo, so 87 horsepower. Not the most exhilarating drive. It was like classy and fun, and I didn't drive it that much. So I was like, but the body's super clean, but it's also not a sought-after classic that people would be really mad if you change things on it.
So the perfect candidate for a conversion.
Right. Yeah. Car I already owned. The body's super clean. It's a classic, but not a classic that you would, quote, ruin. Yeah. I didn't use it every day, so I could, let it sit for a year in various stages of production.
Let's go under the hood.
Yeah. Okay. So here we got, this is mainly batteries under the hood.
What type of batteries did you use then?
So I'm using 2012 Chevy Volt batteries. I'm using 2 packs, and they're parallel together to get a bigger range.
How do you fit 2 packs?
Well, this box represents 1 pack.
Okay.
Normally those batteries are in a T shape.
Yes.
And they're divided into 3 different modules. There's like a longest, middle, and small. And so longest, middle, small modules are there. And I used the stock trays that they were mounted to. I cut them up and then bolted them into the bottom of the box, so everything is secure just like it is in the Bolt. And then my other pack is broken up. I have the 2 larger modules where the fuel tank used to be. In the Mercedes, there's a vertical fuel tank behind the rear seat. So when you take that out, you have maybe about like this much room and a significant amount of height. So I put the 2 bigger modules there, and then the last one's in the transmission tunnel, with a separate mounting plate that mounts from the bottom.
So what type of capacity does it give you? Around 40 kilowatt hour?
It's 32.
32? Wow.
Right. But, that's when they were fresh and new in 2012. So I'm sure it's somewhat depleted now.
Yeah. But for a daily driver around town, it's perfect.
Oh, yeah. Like the 80-mile fun miles range, yeah.
So how do you manage and cool all these guys?
Cooling system, I have 2 independent cooling systems, one for the drive unit, one for the batteries. So the red is Dex Cool, because it's Chevy. And I have 2 radiators up here with cooling fans that are temp switch controlled. and I'm using the stock Chevy Volt water pump underneath, and so it's just a loop. The housing holds, is the high point, runs through the radiator, runs through all the battery packs, through the rear battery packs, and then back up through that water pump. And that's pretty much my cooling.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you manage to find solution back then? Because it's not like you can just go online and find a how to convert your Mercedes.
I sort of pieced it together. Yeah. I actually had bought just a Tesla drive unit, and I bought one of the early boards from Damien, who did he just sold boards that you could put into the drive units. But it had some issues which I'd figured out, but then it never really worked correctly.
Okay.
So I went with a company, HSR Motorsports, which is in North Carolina, I believe. And they sold, already tested, put together package Tesla Model S large drive unit with a throttle pedal, a little control box, and all the wiring harnesses. So with that, you were able to just wire in all of your inputs, drive, neutral, reverse, be able to see data via CAN bus, make changes to parameters via CAN bus. So that was the drive unit side of things. I was originally using a SIMP BMS battery management system, but that ended up some of the features of that never really worked. Okay. So I then had upgraded to a dilithium BMS. So which the SIMP was nice because it took the CAN messages, and so it was pretty simple wiring, but the dilithium I had to hand wire 96 Ls times 2 plus all the grounds. Yeah, but it works great. And yeah, it does all the balancing and everything. And then the charger I got from Thunderstruck Motors, because they pretty much one of the only companies that makes something that can interface with the Chevy Volt CAN communications for both the DC to DC converter and the charger as well, the onboard charger. So originally I used I forget what they call it, I think it's just a charge controller unit. And then when I upgraded to the dilithium BMS, they actually make now a master unit that will do your charger DC and the BMS all in one, and then just break out satellites for the BMS. Okay. So but yeah, the basic build, I bought an entire Chevy Volt wrecked. So I got my first battery pack from that. I got my charge port, my DC-DC converter, my charger, a bunch of wiring harness things I used.
Do you think it's the best way to actually start and get everything ready, learn from it, and then implement it in the base vehicle you want to convert?
At the time, it was definitely, there weren't many options for brand new batteries, especially that were affordable. Yeah. So in that sense, and the Chevy Volt batteries are pretty robust too. Yeah. So even though you don't get a lot of range, they are good batteries for what they do. And it was definitely, buying an entire car was cheaper than trying to buy each of those parts separately. So I think I drove it here today. It's been running for 3 years, so it's a success. It works. It works. There's things, with every project car you want to upgrade and do things a little different. And of course, it was like when I finished the build, I saw products and I was like, oh, I wish that was available when I started. So,
well, if you don't start working and wait for other people to do it, you never
achieve much. You'll never have the basic. So I try to make it sort of as modular as possible. We were talking about getting the Felton battery pack to upgrade so I could get 55 kilowatt hours of fresh batteries rather than 32.
Yeah, the range would be completely different.
Right. And then with the addition of faster charging and air conditioning, and I could remove all the batteries from this without doing anything to the drive unit side of things. So I made it
future-proof.
Yeah. So it's going to take a lot of work, obviously, in reconfiguring, and some of the wiring has to change, of course, but overall, it's relatively modular. I'm not stuck in this.
Before we check out the back of the car, tell us more about all the custom modification and paint you did to the car also, and clearly see it in all its beauty.
So I did the swap. It drove out of the shop January 2021, and in March 2021, I brought it to a body shop to get repainted. This is close to the original color. It was a champagne gold style. It's just a little bit brighter, a little more flake in it, which is what I wanted. I used to have those 18-inch mono blocks on there, and then in the past year I upgraded to these 18-inch rotiform VCET is the model.
So was it custom made for you?
Yes, they were custom made for me. I took measurements, did the offsets and everything, and then submitted them and got the wheels back. And luckily everything fit.
So
really nice.
You also have a body kit. Was it something you could buy back in the 80s or something a bit more modern?
This is a replica of the AMG kit that you could get in the 80s. And this is there's a company in Europe, Classic Euro parts, I think, .com, and I had seen that they had like valence and side skirts, and also I used to have American bumpers on here, which
Yes, you're
which
right.
were
Yeah.
beach,
Much
diving
bigger,
boards.
yeah.
You could jump off the fronts of them. So I wanted Euro bumpers, and when I contacted them about Euro bumpers, they said, "Well, we can make you composite Euro bumpers if you want." And they hadn't done it before, but they actually made the molds. So this is the first set
Nice.
ever produced.
And
I guess it was worth it for them that now they have in their
Yeah.
catalog and they could make more for other people.
And the grille and headlights look brand new.
Yeah, so the actual, you can see these are LEDs, the main headlights. That was I wanted something not super, like the new ones I call tech looking or bug eye,
Yeah.
with like a lot of black in them. I wanted them classic looking, clears, but upgraded a bit. But when I did the paint job, I bought a brand new grille, brand new bezels. And then every other bulb, like the markers, the fog lights, interior bulbs, are all LED
Right.
now.
No side mirror on the passenger side. Was it? Like it
Not
was?
required until 1981, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
All the chrome work is still in very good shape.
Yeah.
So yeah, not a diesel anymore.
Not diesel, but it's no fun at the stoplight if they think you're a Tesla. Yeah.
Well, you can. Also, did they have to make a special skirt for the back because there's no exhaust system? So was it one-off or?
No, that's part of the AMG kit.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how the kits looked in the 80s.
And the spoiler typically would not be painted.
I'm not sure. I don't know if people. I guess it would depend on who got the car in the 80s, but
All right.
I've seen them both ways.
And the interior looks like stock.
Yeah.
You didn't have to do any mods.
Not major. The only real thing, which is easy to tell, is these
Yeah.
covers. They were plastic and they dry rotted and cracked
Okay,
off.
so you-
So I just made some aluminum ones.
Let's go inside.
Okay. You want me to go on this side?
Yeah.
All right.
It is in very good condition.
Yeah, there's little things here and there, but
Yeah.
overall, yeah, it was kept very well. And I just did a lot of detailing on it, but I didn't really
Any
replace.
restoration work back in particular? No.
Not specifically. Well, of course, the instrument cluster is all different for the EV conversion,
Yeah.
but I wanted to keep it analog gauges.
Yeah.
So the car, if you don't know, you can't
don't
tell
see-
it's an
yeah,
EV
yeah.
conversion, and that's what I like. So I have the screen for the dilithium display here,
Mm-hmm.
but all these analog gauges work. So fuel level is now battery life. My coolant temp has the stock Mercedes coolant sensor in line with the motor.
Nice.
So that's my motor temp, GPS speedometer, and then I have an amp draw gauge instead of RPMs to tell me. And then also when I'm charging, I have it hooked up to my battery light, so I know when the charging is happening.
Nice.
And then the glow plug light is my pre-charge now. So every time I turn on the car, it flashes for a second and a half during the pre-charge circuit for the capacitors in the drive unit.
Good stuff.
I did restore these back windows when go down because the Mercedes brackets are not designed well and they bend.
Okay.
So I took them all apart, rebent them, put in support, and now the coupe windows work too.
Okay.
So I did, some things here and there as I found them.
Do you know of anyone who has done another like 1980s Mercedes-Benz?
Not this model.
No.
I've seen a couple other EV conversions
Yeah.
of 80s Benzes, but not
Not
a
this particular
300.
model,
Yeah, not yet.
So you were in love with this generation of Mercedes-Benz even before you got interested in converting them to run on oil or run on electrons?
I think I pretty much found them because of the oil conversions,
okay.
But I worked on a whole lot of the diesels and yeah.
So what's the future for this ride? Shows, upgrade, you mentioned maybe a modern battery pack. What's
Right.
the plan?
Things for this year are the battery pack, air conditioning, and I want to do air ride suspension.
Nice, yeah.
So right now I have coilovers on all four corners. Stock suspension won't work at all because the weight is so different in this car than stock. It would be nose up in the air.
Yeah.
So even though batteries are heavy, one Chevy Volt pack is probably like 400 pounds less than a cast iron diesel and transmission package. So I did coilovers when I did the build, but I think air ride would be cool for this car. It's not a track car; it doesn't need coils necessarily, and I think it would
It's still a cruiser at the end of the
yeah,
day.
it's a very fast cruiser.
yeah.
But it'd be fun to drop it, when it's parked.
All right, so here is the beast.
That's right.
Yeah.
So this is a 2015 Model S base drive unit,
Okay.
rated 400 horsepower, and it's mounted in the same position. It's not reversed or transverse or anything.
Okay.
And then out of there, the axles are they're Mercedes splines on the inside, Tesla
So
on
custom
the drive
made,
unit.
or did you make
Yeah,
them
they
yourself?
were made by a drive shaft shop for me.
Okay.
I sent them a pair of each
Each,
the
yeah.
Mercedes, the Teslas, and then I took measurements and they put Porsche 930 stubs.
All right.
So.
Did you use an off-the-shelf radiator?
Well, this was, I put this in when I moved down here because it's much hotter than Pennsylvania. So this is the extra cooling for the drive unit. I got from EV Parts Guy, sent me, I think just the harness for this pump. This pump I think was laying around our shop.
Okay.
We had some extra stuff from the Tesla build. And this radiator was from a different build in the shop that got pulled out. So it just happened to fit the space and then I custom welded all the bracketry for it.
And you built this obviously before you worked here.
Yes.
But you did at your house, or do you have a workshop at home?
Yeah, in Pennsylvania I have a warehouse that I built myself. Yeah.
All right. So some skid plate just to protect it all.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then, yeah, pretty much above this plate is a control box that I made. That has all the contactors, all the low voltage stuff. So it has the battery management system control unit, the control unit for all the chargers. It also has like a relay bank and a fuse bank to control all the cooling fans, the coolant pumps and everything like that. And then it has the high voltage power ground pre-charge relay is in there. And what else? The Chevy Volt charger, onboard charger is up back here.
Yes.
Yeah, that's mounted to the bottom of the battery box. And then the DC-DC converter is mounted right in the front here. So,
Good stuff.
yeah, the water pumps are, this one's for the batteries, and then I have another one in line with that Tesla one in the back for the drive unit.
So, David, where will the viewers be able to see your ride?
South Florida?
Yeah.
Could be multiple times a month. There's car shows.
Yeah.
And there's some repeating car shows. I go to the one at the Detail Garage, Cars and Rides. It's like monthly on a Sunday. Supercar Saturdays at the Hard Rock Casino. Yeah, just there's a ton of shows. Whenever I have time and lines up in my schedule, then I bring it out.
Cool stuff. Maybe we'll see it in December at Ranch Rocks in Tampa, Florida.
Oh, okay.
And guys, if you like what you saw today, let us know in the comments below. Give us a thumbs up and let us know if you want to see more Mercedes-Benz converted to electric, because I don't recall seeing any other one and I just loved this one. So Dave, thank you so much.
Thank you.